ॐ भद्रं कर्णेभिः शृणुयाम देवाः भद्रं पश्येम अक्षभिः यजत्राः स्थिरैरङ्गैर्तुष्टुवांसस्तनूभिः व्यशेम देवहितं यदायुः स्वस्ति न इन्द्रो वृद्धश्रवाः स्वस्ति नः पूषा विश्ववेदाः स्वस्ति नः तार्क्ष्यो अरिष्टनेमिः स्वस्ति नो बृहस्पतिर्ददातु ॐ शान्तिः 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 यो अन्तः प्रविश्य मम वाच इमां प्रसुप्तां सञ्जीवयति अखिलशक्तिधरस्वधाम्ना अन्यांस्तहस्तचरणश्रवणत्वगादीन् प्राणान्नमो भगवते पुरुषाय तुभ्यं लसतु श्रीमदानन्दतीर्थेन्दुर्नो हृदम्बरे यद्वचश्चन्द्रिका स्वान्तसन्तापं विनिकृन्तति पदवाक्यप्रमाणज्ञान प्रणम्य शिरसा गुरून् व्याकरिष्ये यथाभूतं विष्णुतत्त्वविनिर्णयम्. So good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to folks who have joined for the 20th session of Mundaka Upanishad, which, as you know, is a part of Atharva Veda. And the Atharva Veda has got three important Upanishads: Mandukya, Mundaka, and Shatprashna. We have done Mandukya Upanishad a couple of years ago. So we are right in the middle of Mundaka Upanishad, Dvitiya Mundake Prathama Kandaha. Okay. The Rishi, of course, is Atharva, Angira, Satyavaha, Angirasa, Shuanaka, and all the Acharyas. The Chandas is Anushtup, and the Devata here is Aksharanamaka Paramatma. Okay. So we are, as I said, we are in the Dvitiya Mundake Prathama Kandaha. Tadetat Satyam Yata Sutiptat Pavakat Vishvulingaha Sahasrashaha Prabhavante Sarupaha Tata Aksharat Vividaha Somya Bhavaha Prajayante Tatracha Eva Apiyanti Tivyo hi Amurtaha Purushaha Sabahyabi Antaro hi Ajaha Aprano hi Manaha Shubro hi Aksharat Parataha Paraha Yetasmat Jayate Prano Manaha Sarva Indriyani cha Kam Vayur Jyoti Rapaha Prithvi Vishwasya Dharini Agnir Murda Chakshushi Chandra Suryo Dishaha Shrotre Vag Vivrutashta Vedaha Vayuhu Prano Hrudayam Vishwam Asya Padbyam Prithvihi Esha Sarva Bhutantaratma. So that is what we have done so far. So 4 verses over the last, I think, 6 weeks or so we've been doing it. So what is this all about? Tade Tat Satyam. That Paramatma is called Satyam because he is the creator of the universe. He is the dispenser of eightfold cosmic dispensations. And then with that definition in mind, Angirasa then spoke about how this whole universe came about, because the primary definition of this Paramatma is what? Janmadhyasya Yataha. Okay. And if you go to Taittiriya Upanishad, it says Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. So that Satyam, the very first definition of Brahman, Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma, Tade Tat Satyam is Janmadhyasya Yataha. So to bring home that point, Angirasa is here teaching, isn't it? He's teaching Shuanaka, look, Shuanaka, you're a great Yagnashala, Mahashalaha, you do all these Yagnas and Kundas. So when you put a Kunda and establish a Yagna, in that Yagna, just don't look at the fire and throw stuff, but actually the contemplate that Yagna is how the creation is. Look at that fire and think about creation. How that Vishvulingas, the sparks that come out, is how the Jivas come out during creation. So think about all that. So when Angirasa said, think about this Yagna itself as a creation, then Angirasa goes and talks about the details of how this Paramatma brings about this creation, right? Yetasma jayate prano manaha sarva indriyani cha kam vayur jyoti rapaha prithvi vishwasya dharini is the very first third mantra there. Brings about the third mantra is where the creatorship and the order of creation of the universe is being described by Angirasa. And there goes the answer for folks who think this world is an illusion. If it is an illusion, then there is no need for the Vedas to discuss the order of the universe, the order of the creation of the universe. There is no order in the creation of an illusion. Yeah. So we need to get all these logics and reasonings properly right. The very fact that Angirasa is giving an order for creation implies this is real. This is a real creation with real sequence of events that leads to the coming out of Brahmanda and then the Brahma and then the Pindanda. So we understood how all the Abhimani Devatas are coming in the third mantra. Yeah. And then he said, these Abhimani Devatas are coming in various orders, but how do they come out from Brahman? Okay, so to bring home that truth, he used this illustration, he used this verse 4, to talk about Agnir Murda Chakshushi Chandra Surya Yoho Dishaha Shrote Vag Vibhrutashta Vedaha Vayuhu Prano Hrudayam Vishwam Asya Padbyam Prithvihi Esha Sarva Bhuta Antaratma. He said, all these Tattvabhimani Devatas, they come out from Brahman. They just don't randomly come out. Okay, in a fire, the sparks maybe appear to be coming out randomly from the fire. Yeah, but that is not how the Tattvabhimani Devatas come. So Angirasa he qualifies that initial example that he has given in the first verse, in the first mantra. Here he gives, no, there is an order, there is a sequence, and there is a rules of engagement with regards to how the Tattvabhimani Devatas are coming out of Paramatma. And when we did this particular verse, we compared this with the Purusha Shukta. Yeah, and the Purusha Shukta verse and the verse here, they are absolutely the same. Yeah, so the Samanvaya there is perfect. The Agnir Murda mantra and the Purusha Shukta, they are the same. So they talk about this various Abhimani, Tattva Abhimani Devatas that are coming out from Brahman. Yeah, and then the question arises is, how do we come about? How about mundane jivas like you and me? That is what we are here, right? In this satsang, we are interested because we are mundane jivas. Honestly, we are nobody. We are not even a dust in the speck on the grand scheme of the universe. We are nobody, but still we think we are the center of the universe. So in that case, Angirasa is now talking about how do you guys come about, because you are interested in knowing how you guys are coming about. So I shall explain it to you in the 5th verse. Angirasa says to Shuanaka. So he says, Tasmad Agnihi Samido Yasya Suryaha Somad Parjanyaha Oshadayaha Prithivyaam Puman Retas Sinchati Yoshitayam Bahvi Prajaha Purushat Samprasutaha. So that is the verse that actually talks about what happens to folks like you and me. So this particular slide, we are very familiar. A quick revision here. All the 24 components of the Brahmanda is all illustrated here. And all the Abhimani Devatas of these 24 components of Brahmanda is also illustrated here. So that is the Adhibhuta and Adhidhaiva Srishti. Yeah. So Bhutas, all these jadas culminating in the Panchabhutas. So that is described in the first, in the 3rd and the 4th verses, for example. And the Adhidhaiva Srishti is in the 4th verse, where all the Tattvabhimani Devatas have been described. Okay. So now we come to the next logical thing, which is the journey of souls here. So here is another very introductory verse, which is essential before we go into the deep philosophy of this particular 5th mantra of this particular Mundaka. So we understood that all these Tattvabhimani Devatas, the contemplation is they come from different aspects of Brahman. But of course, Brahman is partless. But this is just for our contemplation. The forehead, the eyes, the nose, the prana, the mouth, the ears, the shoulders, the leg, the middle part of Brahman. This is all for our contemplation. Because he who thinks that the head is different from the leg goes to Andhatamas. Kataka Upanishad is very, very clear on this, and we have done this a million times. Every aspect of Brahman is the same. He is partless. His hands are the same as his legs are the same as his head. Yeah. So we should not think that Brahman has different parts. No, this is just for our contemplation that the rishis have intuited these verses. So that is for the Tattvabhimani Devatas. Then we have, of course, the jivas like you and me. We have been stuck in this Brahman's womb, isn't it, in the pralaya, and then we come forth in creation. And again, as I told you before, we always have Linga Sharira. There was never a point in the Jiva's career that they did not have the Linga Sharira. We have always had this material entanglement with this Linga Sharira. And then when we come out when Chaturmukha comes and all that Brahmanda is done, and then the Pindanda comes forth, and then the various life forms evolves, the Jivas are all there in the life forms circling around the 8.4 million species, right? And how do they do that? They acquire a gross body, they spend some time, do some work, shed the gross body, and then go around in circles, again acquire another body and go on. So there may be a point where, based on our karmas, we can acquire a human body. And when we acquire a human body, we do some actions. Again, we incur karmic imprints and so on. That kind of decides that our karmic imprints that we have on our Linga Sharira decides what our destination is going to be in the grand scheme of the universe. Okay, universe means not just Earth, right? So that we all understand. Universe is humongous, gigantic. This is just one universe. Our philosophers talk about multiverse. So we have this humongous universe with various levels of existence, and our rishis have told us that, look, you can think about 14 levels or planes of existence. So that is what we do as souls, say the Vedas, that we transmigrate and we kind of journey through this huge universe in various planes of existence based on the karmic imprints that we acquire on our Linga Sharira. So it is only on the Linga Sharira there is the karmic imprints, and there also the cosmic ignorance is also on the Linga Sharira. So those are key ideas that we've discussed before. So based on that, this soul either goes to higher planes of existence, which the Vedas talk about as Dhyau, or it comes to Prithvi, or it can go to Naraka, or it can kind of sort of transit between these various planes of existence based on our karmic imprints. So this is another basic concept that we need to understand. So last time when I left, 2 weeks ago, I think, when we left this verse, we gave a brief introduction of the journey of souls should be understood from a Vedic philosophical perspective through what is called the Panchagni Vidya. Okay, so this is fundamental for Vedic philosophy. And that is where the evidence of the journey of souls comes from. So the ones that we have discussed as to why they go to Swarga, Antariksha, Prithvi, Naraka, and so on is not it's not a made-up theory. It comes from the Upanishads. It comes from, for example, Chandogya Upanishad, the 5th Adhyaya. Or it comes from the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, the 6th Adhyaya. As you know, Brihadaranyaka Upanishad has got 6 Adhyayas, and this is the last Adhyaya. And in the initial portions of the last Adhyaya, Panchagni Vidya is discussed, which, there are various levels of understanding this, but one of the superficial levels of understanding is the journey of souls. And of course, there are deeper levels of understanding of this Panchagni Vidya philosophy, which hopefully we'll do this week, and maybe it might take us to next week. Let's see how today's session goes. So how did this Panchagni Vidya started? Panchagni Vidya started with Uddalaka, son Shvetaketu, the arrogant one, goes to Pravahana Jaivili, the Kshatriya, a very Vedic scholar, Kshatriya, who was running his own Gurukula in his kingdom, Pravahana Jaivili. So Shvetaketu goes to him with arrogance and says, I know about Brahman. Pravahana Jaivili asks him a few questions. What are the questions? 5 questions. Okay, so again, what I want to press is, and we'll come upon this, we'll come through this in the subsequent slides, is Panchagni Vidya is full of 5s. Okay, so in Vedas, as you know, numbers are important. Sankhya becomes very important. And in this particular Vidya, the number 5 takes huge philosophical significance. There is 5 everywhere in the universe. Okay, that is what is the philosophy. 5 is everywhere in the universe in Panchagni Vidya. And then, of course, there is one thing called this world universe is called Prapancha, isn't it? So I'm going to break for a minute. Who is going to tell us why this universe is called Prapancha? Who wants to pick up that question?
There are several things which are 5 in number. One is the Panchabhutas and the 5 forms of the gods. Don't know.
Don't worry, Anand. So it's good, sir. You're getting some interesting ideas here. So our Acharya has described this world, this universe is called Prapancha because Panchavido Bedaha Prapancha. There are 5-fold differences. What are the 5-fold differences? Differences between Brahman and Jiva, differences between Jiva and Jivas, difference between Jiva and Jara, difference between each Jaras, difference between Brahman and Jara, and so on. So those are the 5 differences. So even the universe is 5. Okay. So just an interesting, contemplation. Think about the number 5. It's all pervasive in Vedic philosophy. So coming back to this. So Pravahana Jaivili asks 5 questions. Do you know when persons die, how do they go to their destined place? Do you know how do they return to this world? Do you know how is it that the other world is not overfilled with innumerable such persons going there? Do you know by offering what the Jiva is born again in the form of a person and starts functioning? Do you know what deeds one goes by to the path of Devayana or Pitriyana and have not heard that these paths are between, and have you not heard that these paths are between heaven and earth? 5 questions. And our friend Shvetaketu just can't even handle even one question, and he's just dumbstruck and standing there like a pillar. He is very good at standing like pillars. Stabda AI. He did the same thing. when he met his dad Uddalaka with arrogance. And here is Stabda Yaya because he doesn't know what to answer. So he's standing there like a pillar, no answer. So Pravahana Javili is a very compassionate king, Kshatriya, highly learned Kshatriya. He says, no worries, no problems, I'll teach you. But our Shvetaketu is so arrogant that he says, no, I don't want to learn from you. And he runs away. He goes away. And then he goes to his dad and tells him off and said, you didn't teach me all this. There's this king, you asked me a difficult question I could not answer. And Uddalaka asked him what are the questions he asked. And Shvetaketu reminded all that. And Uddalaka was also not able to answer. So he actually says, come, let's both go to Pravahana Jayavili and learn. But then Shvetaketu is again arrogant. He says, no, I can't come there. You go and then come back and teach me. So Uddalaka Aruni goes to Pravahana Jayavili and there begins this philosophy of Panchagni Vidya. Okay. So this Panchagni Vidya, go and check it out in Chandogya Upanishad. I've given you the Adhyaya and the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. The reason why I brought it here is Angira's genius and intuition is revealed in this verse. So who is going to tell me which mantra are we dealing with at this point? Which mantra are we dealing in Mundaka Upanishad in the second Mundaka? What is this mantra's number? Who is going to tell us this number in Sanskrit? Fifth number. So this is the fifth mantra. Okay. So these are all not coincidences. That's what I want to stress here. This is the fifth mantra that talks about the Panchagni Vidya. Okay, so as I said, 5 is everywhere. So when you look at these things, you will appreciate the beauty and the genius of our rishis and the way the scriptures are. So the fifth mantra of Angirasa says, Tasmad Agnihi Samiddo Yasya Suryaha Somat Parjanyaha Oshadayaha Pritivyam Puman Retas Sinchati Yoshitayam Bhakvi Prajaha Purushat Samprasuta. When you look at it superficially, it's very cryptic. But when you go to Chandogya and Brihadaranyaka Upanishad and understand what that Panchagni Vidya is, actually what Angirasa has done is he's compressed that Panchagni Vidya in this one verse. That is the fifth verse. He has actually compressed the Panchagni Vidya. Okay, so hold on to that thought. Okay. So the significance of number 5 in Vedic philosophy is supremely important. So as I said, this is called Panchagni Vidya. What is Panchagni? Pancha plus Agni equals 5 fires. So this is the Vidya of 5 fires. He has just talked about in the very first verse about the fire, isn't it? How everything is coming out from the fire and so on. That's what he has talked about in the first verse. And now Angirasa is actually going deeper into this fire Vidya. He is going deeper into this yajna. Okay, and this is spectacular philosophy, as we shall see in the coming few minutes. So Panchagni means 5 fires. Here is another truth. Every Yajna Kunda or Agni has got 5 components. It's got the flame, which in Vedas is called Archi. Okay, the flame does not happen out of the blue. The flame needs a fuel, right? The fuel is called the Samit. The wood is the fuel. So Samit is the wood. Number 2. When there is fire, there is also smoke. That is called Duma. That is the smoke, the third component. And in the Agnis, we also put coal. Last week, I was somewhere in a cottage lighting the fire, and we had the wood and we also had the coal. Okay, so the coal, it's called Angaraha in Sanskrit. So every fire will have coal, Angaraha. Some people put Angara on their forehead. Comes from the coal, Angara, coal. What is the fifth one? Sparks, Vishvulingaha. We have just done it in the first verse. And there are the sparks. So every Agni Kunda has got 5 components. Archihi, Samit, Dumaha, Angaraha, Vishvulingaha. So we got 5 fires, and in each fires there are 5 components. Okay. And what does a yajna usually mean? So there is this fire and there is the ahuti, isn't it? So all these priests are sitting around and doing these mantras, and in our temples also we do these havans, and we throw stuff into the fire. That is called ahuti. That which we throw into this fire is called the ahuti. Okay. So the ahuti is also called havis. Okay. And when we do a Vedic sacrifice, and some of you would have done havans in our temples, you would have seen the Purohit either using milk or he's using ghee or honey, fruits, grains, cooked food. Yeah. Purodasha, as it's called in the Vedic times, grains, various grains. These are all the ahutis that are put into the fire. Okay. So now think about this. Offerings into the Agni is called ahuti. Now, this is where the philosophy is. So this needs a lot of manana and thinking about it again and again. It might sound a bit complicated, but once you get that eureka moment, this is amazing philosophy. Okay. So the contemplation of jivas given as ahuti in 5 fires is in one sense called Panchagni Vidya. Okay. So I've just summarized that superficial sense of this verse. Okay. These jivas are given as ahutis by Tattvabhimani devatas in 5 fires, which is what is being described by Angirasa here. And also Pravahana Jaivili teaches this to Uddalaka Aruni, which is intuited by the rishis in Chandogya Upanishad and Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. Okay. So think about that. Pancha Agni. Then, of course, Agni is who? We have done this session a million times again, isn't it? Agni is not the material Agni. Agni is not the Pavaka. Agni is not the Pradhana Agni, who is the Tattvabhimani Devata of fire. Agni is the Antaryamin of the Pradhana Agni, who is called Agni Narayana. Okay. So there the Agni also becomes Agni Narayana. Okay. So that is the most important philosophy that we need to grasp when we think about Panchagni Vidyas. Because as Anandji very beautifully mentioned, the 5 forms of Narayana. The Narayana, who is going to tell us the Vyuha forms of the Narayana? Quick quiz.
Aniruddha, Pradyumna, Sankarshana, Vasudeva, and Narayana.
Beautiful, Padmajadi. Thank you very much. So we have the 5 forms of the Supreme Lord. Okay. So that is Panchagni Vidya. So 2 aspects here. The contemplation of jivas given as ahuti in 5 fires is Panchagni Vidya. And what did we do in the very previous verse? The very previous verse finished with Sarva Bhuta Antara Atma. Remember that verse, Sarva Bhuta Antara Atma. You apply it here. So this Paramatma is everywhere, right? Sarva Bhuta, whole material universe. And inside all the jivas who are also called Bhutas. And what is he doing as the Antaryamin? He is controlling them. He is their Swami. He is controlling them and making everything happen. So understanding these 5 aspects, the Vyuha forms of Narayana, and correlating with the 5 fires or the 5 stations in which the jivas are moving around in the universe, okay, is the Panchagni Vidya. Okay, so think about this. It's a complicated idea, but I humbly request you to keep ruminating on this concept, because this is very, very important, because the Vedas say he who knows the Panchagni Vidya will go to moksha. That is the prescription there. We need to understand this Panchagni Vidya, because it is about us as souls. And if we understand this Panchagni Vidya, then it takes us to moksha, says Brihadaranyaka Upanishad and Chandogya Upanishad. So we need to understand this in their proper perspective, which is what we will aim to do in this session and probably in the next session. So this understanding this Panchagni Vidya needs to happen at least at 3 levels of interpretation. Okay. Let us look at the first interpretation here. This is the journey of souls. You and me. We are here in this universe. We are going through this samsara. We somehow got into our mother's womb. We spent 9 months in our mother's womb. We came out. Then after that, we have stuck in wherever stations in our careers and in samsara, etc. We are currently in this material world. But this is not our final phase, isn't it? We are going to shed this material body at some point, and we are going to make our onward journey. That is what is the Panchagni Vidya from the first. And believe me, this is a superficial interpretation of this particular verse, where Angirasa says, because he has previously told us about how the Brahmanda comes and the Pindanda comes, then he talks about Tattvabhimani Devatas, then we understood that we as jivas are in the womb and then we are coming out. And what happens to that? So there he says, Tasmad Agnihi Samido Yascha Suryaha. Yasya Suryaha. Somat Parjanyaha. Oshadayaha Prutivyam. Puman Retas Sinchati Yoshitayam Bahvi Prajaha Purushat Samprasutaha. Okay. So there are few important verse names here, which we will start this, we will understand this verse layer by layer. Okay. So first, Swarga is described here. Okay. Asau. Asau means what? Asau means Dhyau. That one that is far away. Asau. That's Swarga. Okay. So for that, Swarga is considered as one Agni. So there are 5 Agni stations here. Okay. So one is the Swarga. Then you have something called Parjanya. Parjanya means the clouds. The classic example that is given is when you are going to India in that flight, when you are flying 30,000 feet and you can see down the clouds. When you're flying, you see the cloud formation, you see the clouds. Our Rishi says that location, that layer is called Parjanya or Parjanya Loka. So that is called Parjanya, the situation of the clouds. So the contemplation is the second Agni is called the clouds area, the Parjanya. The third one is Oshadi. Oshadi means what? Plants that give grains. That is one definition of Oshadi. Oshadi certainly is not medicine in Vedic philosophy. Oshadi is plants that give grain and then die. Okay, they give grains and then they die. That is Oshadi. Okay? Grains. So that is the third station. Where is the grains? The grains are grown in Prithvi. Okay, so that Prithvi, where the grains are grown in Oshadi, is the third Agni. Okay. So then what is happening? You and me, we are having breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and whatever else in between. So we are eating this food, right? That is the fourth Agni. Purusha, a male, is the fourth Agni there. And then what happens? When we are, matured and we have gone past puberty, we are married, we make children. Okay. There, Yosha means the female principle, the female human being. Let's say we are not interested in animals, right? We are only interested in humans because we got a Shadana Sharira. So we are talking about us. And that is what the Rishi is also doing here. Yes, there are other ways in which the living forms coming through, eggs and other forms. We are not interested in that. This is for the humans because this is the Sadhana Sharira. So then there is the fifth station, which is called Yosha or female. So that is one way of looking at it. Swarga, Parjanya, Oshadi, male and female. Who is the male here? So let us compare this 5. So why is there this 5 stations? The Vedas say that the journey of souls is only in these areas. Okay. Of course, you can go to Naraka and all that, but let us talk about ones that are doing something purposeful in their area, in their lives. Those souls, their journey is in 5 stations. Each station is compared to a Agni, which has got 5 components, right? Each Agni Kunda has got 5 components, which I've just told you. And there are 5 fires in 5 stations where the soul traverses. So let us look at in a very superficial sense. The soul, let's say we are in Swargaloka. Because of our good karmas, we have gone to Swarga. Okay? We've spent some time in Swarga. We have exhausted our good karmas. Then what happens to us? Okay? We are talking about folks like you and me, who we are going to do the path of Pitruyana, right? So here I'm going to break for a minute. Who is going to give us a brief idea of what is Devayana and Pitruyana? We have done it before. So who wants to tell us, share their ideas about Devayana and Pitruyana? Okay, no problem. So there is a bit of a silence, but I'll do that. So Pitruyana is all the souls that circle around in samsara. That is you and me. We do this journey, this cycle of Pitruyana up to Swargaloka. And if you are in Pitruyana, the highest planetary system or planes of existence in Swarga that you could go to is Chandraloka. Yeah. So you will go up to the Chandraloka, have fun. Then you will start making the descent again. You will start coming back to the Mrityu Loka. So our Vedic rishis have intuited, so how does this happen? Okay. No other philosophy, of the world that I know of has actually given this explanation. Yeah, as to how the souls actually make their journey. Okay? So the view of the Vedic rishis is that the soul from Swargaloka descends and it goes to the Parjanya Loka. That is the second station where it goes. And then when the clouds are there and then the rain happens, the souls are all there in the rain droplets. Okay. So from the rain droplets, they fall on earth, which is the third station, Prithvi, and they get into plants. These raindrops fall on the plants. The raindrops, let's say, has got all these jivas that are coming down from Swarga to Parjanya. Then they are following down. They're following on the plants. And they get into all the food in plants, Oshadis. Sasya, as it's called in Veda, in Upanishad, or Oshadayaha. Yeah. So they get into the food. They get into the grains and plants. What do we humans have done? We have discovered fire and we have learned and mastered the art of cooking. So we cook this food. And then what we do? We eat. Both males and females eat the food. Okay? But here is the view of the Vedas. What the male eats. So remember, the food has got all these jivas in it. They've all come through Parjanya Loka and fallen on the plants. They are in the vegetables and the foods that we eat. That food is cooked. Both man and woman eats. But when a man eats, that food gets processed. It goes into the reproductive system of males. It goes into their, if you want to be an anatomist, it goes into their testicles, gets into the semen as sperms. Okay. Then what happens? There is the copulation that is going on, where the sperms get into the female's reproductive organs. That is called Yosha, the fifth stage. Okay. And from there, after 9 months, this fellow, that is you and me, we are born. So that is our history. Yeah, says the Vedas. That is our history. We have not even bothered before to know this, but Vedas are saying that this is how your journey is. This is how you come about. And now you are 50 years, 60 years, 70 years, or 40 years, 30 years, whatever it is. You're hanging around at this point, at this stage. So this is in brief the journey of souls that is being described here. Tasmad Agnihi Samidaha Yasya Suryaha. In this station, the samit for Swarga is the Surya. Surya is the fuel for this particular Agni called the Swarga. Okay. It is a very terse, brief statement, but I've got other slides coming up to compare this with Chandogya and Brihadaranyaka Upanishad and understand the gravity of what Angirasa is saying. Okay. Somat Parjanyaha. See, beautiful. Somat. Soma means moon, right? Moon. Somaloka, Chandraloka. So that is what Pitruyana is all about, right? So the highest you can go is up to the Somaloka, Chandraloka. Okay. And then from there, what you do? You make the return journey. Where do you go? Somat Parjanyaha. You come here. From Parjanya, what happens? Oshadayaha Pruthivyam. You come to the Oshadis on earth. Then what happens? The man eats. Puman is man. What does he make? Retaha. In Vedic Sanskrit, Retaha means semen or sperms. Okay, so our Vedic rishis have seen divinity and spirituality in philosophy in every aspect of human transactions. So here they sing, so you go into the sperms, you go into the retas, sinchati. Then what happens? This retas gets into the yoshita. Yosha, yoni, stri, bharya, utpatti, sthana, karana. There are at least three meanings of yoni. Yoni, there is bharya. Bharya means your wife or your consort or your whatever, the person with whom you have a relationship with. Okay, that is Yoshitayam. So these sperms get into the Yoshitayam. And once that happens, what? This is the process where Bahvi Prajaha, it's correctly, I think the human population was 7 billion or so. Bahvi Prajaha. They come from whom? Urushat. samprasutaha. So even these last three words is amazing. I don't know whether we'll have time to look at all the beauty of these individual verses. Purushat samprasutaha. Angirasa qualifies all these things that is going on, Angirasa, in your journey. It is all happening. Why? Because Purushat samprasuta. Okay. So I hope you find that very interesting. Now let us look at individual aspects. So what did he say? The first Agni was Swarga. Tasmad Agnihi Samido Yasya Suryaha. Tasmat Agnihi Samido Yasya Suryaha. So the first station that has been described is Swargaloka, where Surya is the summit. Chandogya Upanishad, Panchagni Vidya. Asauva Loko Gautama Agnir Tasya Aditya Eva Samit Rashmayo Dhumo Ahar Archihi Chandrama Angaraha Nakshatrani Vishfulingaha Tasmin Yetasmin Agno Devaha Shraddam Juhvati Tasya Ahutehe Somo Raja Sambhavati. So the Chandogya Upanishad actually gives a beautiful contemplation of Swarga. What are the various components of Swarga? How do you contemplate that as an Agni Kunda with 5 components? So you need Samit. What is the Samit? Surya. Agnir Tasya Aditya Eva Samit. Tasmad Agnihi Samido Yasya Suryaha. Absolutely the same ideas that Angirasa is talking about, that is described in Chandogya Upanishad. Then, of course, the Chandogya Upanishad says, in that Swarga, Rashmayo Dhumaha, the sun's rays is the smoke, Archihi, Chandrama, Angaraha, Nakshatrani, Vishwalingaha, and it gives you that greater levels of contemplation. So, if you are interested, go to these verses and look at it and read it. It's just incredible. First level. Okay. Next, Somat Parjanyaha. Parjanyo Vava Gautama Agnihi Tasya Vayureva Samit Abramam Dhumo Vidyut Archihi Ashani Angaraha Pradanayo Vishvulingaha Tasmin Tasmin Agno Devaha Soma Rajan Juhvati Tasya Ahute Esha Sambhavati. Ahute Varsham Sambhavati. Varsham means the clouds that make the rain. Okay. Somat Parjanyaha, exactly the same. And again, the Chandogya Upanishad gives you the 5 components of the Parjanya Loka. Okay. To think about this 5 components which are there in Agni, in any material Agni, there are 5 components. Parjanya Loka, there are 5 components. Think on, contemplate this. Why the Rishi is doing all that, you will soon find out in subsequent slides, because that is the inner secret of Panchagni Vidya. Yeah. Next slide. Oshadayaha Prithvyam. Prithvi Vava Gautama Agnihi Tasya Samvatsara Eva Samit Akasho Dhumo Ratri Rachihi Disho Angaraha Avantara Disho Vishwalingaha Tasmin Etasmin Agno Devaha Varsham Jukhvati Tasya Ahuter Annam Sambhavati. Okay, beautiful. Oshadayaha Prithvyam. What is this Oshadaya? Annam. Same, exactly the same ideas. And Angirasa, as I said, compress this in this particular 5th mantra. So the food is formed. The jivas are gone into the food. Puman retahas sinchati. Purusho vava gautama agnihi tasya vageva samit prano dhumo jihvo archir angaraha shrotram vishvulingaha tasmine tasmin agno devaha annam juhvati tasya ahute retahas sambhavati. Puman retaha sinchati. Ahute retaha sambhavati. Exactly the same verses. So the food that the man eats become the jivas in the food that the man's eat get into the sperms. Okay. We eat the food into it, isn't it? So there is a Gita verse that also talks about this yajna of eating the food. So who is going to tell us the 15-14 verse? Go for it. Yeah, Pragnesh.
Aham Vaishvanaro Bhutva Praninam Dehamasrita Pranapana Samayukta Pachamyanam Chaturvidham.
Beautiful, Pragnesh. Thank you very much. So, Krishna is giving us another concept of Agni. Aham Vaishwana, I am that Vaishwana Agni, the food that you put inside your mouth. I digest, you give you prana, apana and all that. That is one Agni, that sacrifice that Krishna talks about. Vedas give you another perspective of Agni when we eat food. When Puman eats the food, the jivas in that Puman becomes the sperms. Okay. Fourth Agni. Yoshitayam Yoshavava Gautamar Agnihi Tasya Upasta Eva Samit. Yeah. And it goes on. This is incredible. Talks about the anatomy of the female genitalia. Okay, for those of us who are of medical predisposition, taking the female genitalia as an Agni Kunda, where the sperms are offered as ahutis. And the female genitalia is taken with 5 components. Yeah. And each one is taken as a samit or a dhumo or angaraha and so on. Let's see what it says. Yoshava Gautama Agnir Tasya Upasta Eva Samit. Yeah. Yad Upa Mantrayate Sadhumo Yonir Archihi Yad Antah Karoti Te Ankaraha Abhinandaha Vishpulingaha. So the whole process of copulation is captured in a fire sacrifice. This is, I think, incredible from a medical perspective. The whole process of how this fertilization happens, how that intercourse or copulation happens, is a fire sacrifice. It is a yajna. These things are there not for just things that you do, but there are a deeper philosophical and spiritual aspects to it. Tasmin agno devaha reto juhvati tasya ahuter pi sambhavati garbhas sambhavati. Yeah. So, fifth Agni is the woman's yosha, the 5 components of the reproductive organ of the female, where the sperm is deposited as a ahuti. That is a Yagni Kunda. And once that has happened, what happens? Bahvi prajaha. We are all born from our parents, not out of the blue. But this is the process that has happened. The 5th yajna happened between our father and our mother, and we were born. That is the 5th yajna. Okay. Iti panchamyam ahutavam apaha purusha vachaso bhavantiti sa ulbavruto garbo dashava nava va masan antaha shayitva yavadaya jayate. So after 9 months, nava, we are coming out. Says the Chandogya Upanishad, after the 5th Agni Yajna, we are coming out at this point. Then what is happening? This is the profound philosophy, in my view, of Panchagni Vidya and our Vedic rishis. Sajato yavad ayusham jivati tam pretam dishtam yeto agnaya eva haranti yata eva yeto yataha sambhuto bhavati. What has happened to you? You have done the 5 Agni Kundas, and you come from Swarga, Parjanya, Oshadayaha, Puman, Yoshaha. And then after 9 months, you've had all these innings and you're having great career and you made a lot of properties, so many cars, etc., etc. Then what happens? Here is the sad fact. You go to the same fire. Finally, your body and you are offered as in that fire. That is our final phase on earth. In this particular innings, you are offered as a fire, and then you make an onward journey. Okay. So that is the view of the rishis of how that Agni Kunda is viewed as the journey of souls, and why Hindus cremate. They don't cremate because there are too many people, there is no space to bury. No, it is all about the inspiration from the Panchagni Vidya. Everything is fire sacrifice with 5 components, and you are given to the fire when you are cremated, when your body is cremated. That is the truth of life, which Angirasa and all our Vedic rishis, particularly of the Chandogya and Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, they want us to think about all this. These are the core basics of life. Yeah, this is what it is. Yeah, there is no running away from it. Yeah, this is what it is. And the rishis are reminding us of this. Think about this, guys. Will you not get vairagya when you look at this? Because how are these things happening? You did not decide in whose father's, in your father ate what vegetable and in which sperm you got into and which sperm fertilized which egg. None of this we know, and none of this we are in control. Yet we are here and we think we are the center of the universe. Angirasa says, all this is happening because of what? Purushat samprasutaha. Look at those words, and I've got something coming in the next slide to open this up. Purushaha samyak prasutaha. They come from this Purusha. He is the guy who is actually making all this happen. Okay, how is that happening? We've had beautiful answers from Anandji and Padmajaji about Narayana and 4 Vyuha forms, which is 5. The 5 components of the fire, Agni is what? 5. Duma, Archi, Samit, Vishwalinga, Angaraha. They are the same. Narayana, Vasudeva, Sankarshana, Pradyumna, Aniruddha. So for those of us who are interested in this Panchagni Vidya from a Paramamukya Vritti, from the highest levels of philosophy, every component that I've told you in Swarga, the 5 components, in Parjanya, the 5 components, in Oshadi, the 5 components, in Puban, the 5 components, in the Osha, the 5 components, the words that have come in those Upanishads, in the Paramamukya Vritti, they all mean Narayana. They all celebrate the names of Vishnu. And who are those 5 names? Aniruddha, Pradyumna, Sankarshana, Vasudeva, and Narayana. Because, why? As I said, Sarva Bhuta Antaratma, it is this guy who is inside everything that is making things happen. So let us expand this further, and I've just put a bit more of a complicated slide because we have understood all these 5 Agnis, we have understood the journey of the souls. Now we have to just place Purushat Samprasutaha in this equation and then understand what is going on here. So all the journey of souls we have not made. We are not independent beings. That is the idea there. We are such a dependent, useless being. And we are dependent on this Paramatma for every damn thing that is going on. And our Rishi wants us to think about this idea. Purushat Samprasutaha. Who is Purusha? Purushoha vai Narayanaha. Akamayat. Shatapata Brahmanam. Om Ata Purushoha vai Narayano. Akamayat Prajaha Srujayeti. Anunarayana Upanishad, first mantra. Okay. Purusha, we have done Purusha Shukta, right? Purusha Ohavai Narayana. There is no doubt about it. This Narayana, it is only from this Narayana that everything comes. Okay. How does it come? Samprasutaha. Sam means what? Samyak. Samyak is very well. Prasutaha. Okay. That is a beautiful, beautiful word. And that captured my imagination in this particular verse. Prasutaha. Why did Angirasa put the word Prasutaha? He could have said Srujate, Srujayeti, isn't it? Srujayeti. He didn't put Srujayeti. Purushat Sam Srujayeti. He could have said that. No, he said Purushat Sam Prasutaha. Here is a quick quiz. Tat Savitur. So which mantra the words Tat Savitur comes there? Who is going to tell us that? Tat Savitur. Where do you?
Gayatri.
Gayatri mantra.
Gayatri mantra. Beautiful. Tat Savitur. Who is Savitur? Who is going to tell us that?
Surya.
Surya is Savitur. Okay, fantastic. That's one interpretation. Anybody else has any other?
Narayana. He's
Surya Narayana.
Paramatma himself.
How? Okay, somebody said Surya Narayana. Very good. Who said Surya Narayana? Sorry, I didn't.
It's me, Ajit.
Ajit, excellent, Ajit. Thank you. So, Pratibha ji, go ahead. What was your view?
No, I was about to tell the same. He's Paramatma himself, I said.
Okay, fantastic. So, why is Paramatma called Savitur? Any takers? You may
Yeah,
want
it is because he's a creator. Savitur, Prasava, Prasuta, that Dhatu is a creator. He
Beautiful.
creates everything. That is why it's called as Savitur.
Prakash ji, thank you very much. So, Acharya is given a Prasavita. Okay, Savitur, the etymology of Savitur. Savitur, yes, is the sun. That's one meaning, but that is not the deeper levels of understanding. The etymology of Savitur in Gayatri comes from Prasavita. Prasavita means what? Prasava, as Prakash ji beautifully mentioned. Prasava means what? Pregnancy and delivery. Who delivers the universe? We have all come out from the womb of this Paramatma. So he is our creator in that sense. So we have come out of his womb. Yata urnanabihi srijate gruhnate cheta prativyam. We are all world experts on this particular verse. Okay. So when Gayatri says Savitur and when Angirasa says Prasutaha, Prasavita, they are similar. Prasutaha, Prasavitaha, Savitur, Prasavaha, Janmadhyasya Yataha. That is, it is from whom everything comes out. Jivas are eternal, right? You and me, we are eternal. Not that we are ever going to be destroyed. But the birth for us is acquiring a body. And by acquiring a body, we journey through these various 5 stations of the universe. Okay. And who is the guy who is responsible for this? Purushat samprasutaha. So think about my intention there was when you think about the word prasutaha, immediately prasavita should come. When prasavita idea comes, savitur comes, then Gayatri. So that is why, Gayatri mantra is amazing. Because the whole of the Vedic ideas is compressed in this, right? You have Om Bhur Bhuvasvaha, Tat Savitur, Varenyam, Bhargo. So we have done the Gayatri, right? The various Vargas and how that links with Purusha Shukta and the rest of the Vedas and all the sounds of the universe. It is because of this. These are all classic examples of that. Samprasutaha Tat Savitur. Okay. Acharya gives a beautiful etymology. Prasavita Jagato Janaka iti Savita. Okay. So this is what the Panchagni Vidya is. When this Paramatma is inside everything, Sarva Bhuta Antara Atma, in 5 Agnis, 5 stations, the 5 components of each station, where the Jivas are given as Ahuti by all the Tattva Abhimani Devatas and all the Abhimani Devatas that are actually taking them to their journeys, in various journeys. These Devatas are giving them as Ahutis in these 5 Agnis, Swarga, Parjanya, Prithvi, Puman, Yosha. And then in each 5, you have the 5, this Narayana, Purushat Samprasutaha, who is regulating and making these things happen. These are not random events. These are, Paramatma is making this happen. So that is the real Panchagni Vidya. Okay, so I had to do all these the basic stuff to actually come to this Panchagni Vidya. So in the first station, what are the 5 aspects of Narayana? Narayana, 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 Vasudeva, Narayana, Sankarshana, Narayana, Pradyumna, Narayana, Aniruddha. In the second Agni, which is Parjanya, we have 5 Narayana contemplations. So shall we take one after the other to recite this? So can I call upon one of you, maybe Pratibhaji, do you want to do number 2? The 5 contemplations there.
Vasudeva Narayana, Vasudeva Vasudeva, Vasudeva Sankarshana, Vasudeva Pradyumna, and Vasudeva Aniruddha.
Beautiful. And in the third station, which is the Oshadi of Prithvi, the 5 contemplations of Paramatma. Who wants to do that? Prakashji, go for it.
Sankarshana Narayana, Sankarshana Vasudeva, Sankarshana Sankarshana, Sankarshana Pradyumna, Sankarshana Aniruddha.
Thank you very much, Prakashji. Raj, do you want to do the 4th station, which is the Puman, the Purusha?
Yeah. Pradyumna Narayana, Pradyumna Vasudeva, Pradyumna Sankarshana, Pradyumna Aniruddha.
Beautiful, thank you. And finally, the Yosha. In the Yosha station, 5 aspects of Paramatma who is there in the Yosha. Yeah. Who wants to do that? Ajit, go for it.
Aniruddha Narayana, Aniruddha Vasudeva, Aniruddha Sankarshana, Aniruddha Pradyumna, and Aniruddha Aniruddha.
Beautiful. Thank you. So this is the Panchagni Vidya. Okay. 5 times 5. Everywhere there is 5. Prakashji, go for it.
I don't remember this. When the last, the Yoshita, that thing, he's talking about Upasta and also Yoni. What is the difference between the 2? I'm not able to recollect that.
So I think if you go to the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad Bhashya of the Acharya, it is the various anatomical components of the female reproductive organ, Prakashji. So it's amazing.
I was thinking that the Upasta and Yoni are almost the same, because when you say Upasta, Yoni, I was thinking it is the same thing. Well, I was not able to recollect. That's why I asked that question.
So Yosha Vava Gautama Agnihi Tasya Upasta Eva Samit. Yeah, Samit. Yad Upa Mantrayate Sa Dhumo Ho Yonir Archihi. Okay, so without upsetting folks in this audience, this is the female anatomy of the female genitalia. That is what is being described here. Yeah. So the yoni there is, if you want to tell me the anatomy of this, is the vagina. That is how you would do this. And then samit is the overall organ. Then you have the hair, then you have the vagina, and so on. So I don't want to go into these details. You can refer this, but this is the female genitalia that is being described, Prakashji. I hope that makes sense. So this is what Panchagni Vidya is. 5 times 5. Yeah. So the 5 Vyuha forms in 5 stations in Agni contemplate this Paramatma, who is the Antaryamin in everything, controlling everything. So if you know this, so that is what the Rishi, the Upanishad, the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad finishes off saying that he who knows this will go to moksha. Because he who knows this for what? Because when he understands the bare facts of life, he understands how small he is, how dependent he is, and how he develops vairagya, and then how he develops this supreme devotion to this Paramatma who has actually made all this happen. And you and me, we are here going through this whatever in life that we are doing, and we are so fixated on our careers and on the wealth and so on that we are doing. Actually, this is all from Paramatma. That is the first interpretation. We got 4 minutes for the second interpretation. So I think we've just done the Panchagni Vidya, I think, reasonably well. The second one, we'll finish off with the second interpretation, and that is actually quite good because next week we'll take up the Adi Yajna interpretation of this, which is the most important interpretation of this particular verse, that when you do a yajna, when you do a havan, how do you contemplate all this in a higher, deeper sense is what the verse actually is. Because at the end of the day, Angirasa is teaching Paravidya in yajna to Shuanaka, right? Tasmad agnihi samido yasya suryaha somad parjanyaha oshadayaha prativyam puman retas sinchati yoshitaham bhakvi prajaha purushat samprasuta. Let's look at the second verse. God created fire. For fire to continue, he created samit. For summits to happen, he created the sun and the moon, because all the plants require what? Sun and the moon. Sun is required for evaporation of the ocean to make the clouds, and the clouds come as rain. Chandra, we know in Krishna has said in Gita, Chandra is very important for Oshadi. So these guys required. He created the sun, he created the moon, he created the summit, he created the Agni, he created the rain. And because of the rain, what happened? The plants are all growing fine. Otherwise, you have drought. So when the plants are created, the grains are there, the man eats the grains. That goes into the sperm, goes into the woman, and then you are born. Okay, so that talks about the cycle of life and how this Paramatma has actually given us all these components so that we can actually carry on with our journey of souls. Okay, so that is the second one. Tasmad agnihi samido yasya suryaha somad parjanyaha oshadayah prativyam puman retas sinchati yoshitayam bhakvi prajaha purushat samprasuta. Okay, now think about it. We'll catch up with this next week. Why is this system like this? Why should a man have sperms that goes into a woman and then a baby is born? Why can't it be the other way around? Yeah, why is it set up like this? Okay, think about this problem of biology and evolution, but actually our Vedic philosophers have found an answer to this, and we will tackle that in the next week as to why is this system there. Okay, think about the verse of Gita, Mama yonihi mahad brahma tasmin garbam dadamyaham. Okay, that is a beautiful verse of Gita that actually captures these ideas as to why I give this tasmin garbam dadami aham, to whom? Mahad Brahma. So let's look at all this, who this Mahad Brahma is. I offer the garbha. So God has made these systems because that is how he has created the universe, and this universe that we create as father and mother, we create a universe for ourselves, right, with our children and so on. That also follows the same sequence of what happens in the initial creation of the universe. So the rules of the universe are the same everywhere. We have understood, right? Whatever happens in Brahmanda happens in Pindanda. So whatever is there in the macrocosm is also in the macrocosm. So that is the universal principle that flows through this. Yeah, and we will kind of discuss this in detail next week. There are so many slides coming up in this, and I can't wait to discuss all this in the coming weeks. Yeah, on that note, Krishna Pranamastu.